Hello and welcome. This is Amhara Media Corporation and you are watching our Tuesday update live from Bahardar, Ethiopia, and I am Fikrati Soto. Stay with us. Council of Ministers in its 9th regular session yesterday has discussed on 2 draft proclamations and passed decision. Let's get more from Ababa Burhane.
Federal Government Procurement and Property Administration Draft Bill is one of the agendas discussed by the Council. The bill is drafted to correct the bottlenecks encountered in the course of execution and maladministration that might be obstacle for good governance, as well as to support the procurement and property system with technology. The bill would also help local manufacturers to maximize productivity by strengthening their participation in government procurement activities. The Council, after deliberation, referred the draft bill to the House of People's Representative for approval. The Council of Ministers has discussed and passed a decision on the draft bill of mineral resources development. According to the Council, as minerals are non-renewable natural resource, a draft bill has been prepared in order to utilize the resources, considering the coming generations, environmental protection and in accordance with the ecosystem. Moreover, establishing a mineral resources administration is pivotal that would enable the sector to be competent globally, effective and substitute imported mineral products, enhance export trade and support job creation. Considering the contribution of the draft bill for the development of the national economy, the Council of Ministers has referred it for approval to the House of People's Representative after deliberations. The Council of Ministers has also discussed the draft directive on community-based health insurance. The draft directive has been prepared to implement the Community-Based Health Insurance Proclamation number 1273/2014 with a view to ensure its effectiveness by establishing a harmonious execution system at national level. After deliberating on the draft directive, the Council has unanimously decided the directive to be implemented right after it is published on Nagarit newspaper.
The Ethiopian Investment Commission will hold an international investment forum with the objective of promoting Ethiopia's sample investment opportunities from April 26 to 28, 2023 in Addis Ababa, and Nathaniel will give us the detail.
Promoting the wide investment opportunities of Ethiopia to the global community is the objective of Invest Ethiopia 2023 Forum. Briefing the media, Deputy Commissioner at Ethiopian Investment Commission, Tamasken Tilhaun, said that the forum will be attended by more than 600 new foreign direct investors and will have the potential to generate more than $3 billion in investments in Ethiopia over the next few years. Accordingly, the forum will bring together investors, business leaders, policymakers, and entrepreneurs from around the world to explore and unlock investment opportunities in Ethiopia. It was indicated the forum will also provide a platform for participants to learn about Ethiopia's business climate, investment opportunities, and government policies aimed at promoting investment and economic growth. Invest Ethiopia 2023 will showcase some of the most promising investment opportunities in Ethiopia, with a focus on sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, energy, ICT, healthcare, transport and logistics, tourism and other emerging sectors. Ethiopia is a country with enormous investment potential, boasting a young, dynamic and rapidly growing population, abundant natural resources and strategic locations at the crossroads of Africa and the Middle East.
Deutsche Welle reported that with 90% of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam completed and Sudan has now turned it into a supporter, though Egypt is critical of the project, experts have ruled out war and point to potential benefits for the whole region. Let's get more from Yayu Malese.
The report indicated that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam or GERD has been dogged by controversy ever since construction started on the $4 billion mega project in 2011. Now 12 years on, Ethiopia's Office of National Coordination has announced that the hydroelectric power dam has been 90% completed. The report says for Ethiopia, the dam will make a huge difference and the government expects it will generate up to 6,500 megawatts of electricity, doubling the annual national electricity output. This will enable the 60% of the population that is not yet connected to the grid to gain access to reliable power. Ethiopia's neighbor Sudan, which draws 2/3 of its water supplies from the Nile and regularly suffers from massive flooding during the rainy season, had first criticized the project from the start. Now, however, it seems to have changed its view amid hopes that the dam will help to regulate the annual floods. The report added in January, Sudanese leader Abdul Fattah al-Burhan told Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in the Sudanese capital Khartoum that the two countries were aligned and in agreement on all issues regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. According to the report, Egypt, which was also an early critic of the project, has however not changed its mind, maintaining that the dam on the Blue Nile, the river Nile's main tributary, will jeopardize its water supply. Around 97% of Egypt's population of 106 million people live along the river Nile and depend on it as a source of fresh water. There is also deep-lying emotional aspect at play in the country's criticism of the project, as the river has always been considered Egypt's lifeline. In mid-March, Egyptian Foreign Minister Sami Shokri told local media that all options are open, all alternatives remain available in the context of the dam's upcoming completion, which is being closely followed by Egypt. The report further states Egypt's warning came despite the fact that it has found a solution to make up for the loss of water caused by the filling of the Gerd water reservoir, which started in 2020. Egypt has directed more water from Lake Nasser, the water reservoir of Egypt's own hydropower Aswan High Dam, into the Nile. A researcher, Tobias Zumbarger, who focused on the impact of climate change on the Middle East at Germany's University of Heidelberg, told DW that the dam project in Ethiopia is an illustrative example of the extent to which national modernization projects and environmental dependencies are simultaneously reinforced by the constant threat of climate change.
The presidents of Mekelle, Aksum and Raya universities disclosed that they are making the necessary preparations to restart education. Burhan Warkana will give us the detail.
Following the peace agreement made between the federal government and TPLF, several social services have been restored. Mekelle, Aksum, Adigrat and Raya universities have been carrying out the necessary preparations to restart education. Adigrat University President Dr. Zaid Nagash appreciated the efforts being made by federal government to resume education following the peace agreement. He stressed the need to accelerating the teaching and learning process and sustaining the peace. Mekelle University Research and Community Service Vice President Dr. Burhanu Hadush on his part said, in spite of the damages, there are chances that would enable the university to resume education, stressing the need to get authorization and required budget from the Ministry of Education to provide the necessary impetus. Samara University President Dr. Mohammed Usman said, the damage incurred on the universities is a big loss for the whole country, emphasizing that rehabilitating the institutions and making them ready for service is the responsibility of all Ethiopians. Addis Ababa University and Government Universities Consultation Forum President Professor Tasso Oldehanna said, a scientific solution supported by knowledge and research is essential to ensure sustainable peace and development in the country. Therefore, Professor Tasso underscored it is essential to let students restart their education and strengthen the peaceful teaching and learning process of higher education institutions to produce qualified and competitive graduates.
Ministry of Labor and Skills has signed an agreement with the Chinese company Orient International Holdings to enhance the efficiency of professionals in the textile sector and create more job opportunities in Ethiopia. Let's get more from the report. It was indicated the agreement is expected to help produce capable human power in the textile industry and create more job opportunities in the sector. Speaking on the occasion, State Minister of Labor and Skills Dr. Teshale Berecha said that Ethiopia will work in collaboration with the Chinese government to empower citizens in the field of education and training. According to him, the agreement will help to enhance the development activity that the country has embarked upon in the textile sector. Due attention will be given for its implementation.
The textile industry has enormous potential for economic growth in Ethiopia and also elsewhere in the world, actually. We have been working relentlessly towards improving the skills of its workforce to meet the demand of the industry, the private sector. And we believe that collaboration with Shangtex will further boost the sector's overall role in skill development and knowledge transfer among many friends. Shangtex's experience as a forefronter in the textile industry will be invaluable in not just developing the sector, but also in encouraging mentorship for our entrepreneurs interested in this particular sector, the textile sector. Today, this Memorandum of Understanding represents a significant step forward in our shared aspirations to achieve sustainable development, employment opportunities, and skill development in Ethiopia.
The State Minister further said that the agreement will help to expedite the ongoing efforts to realizing sustainable development, job creation, and skills development in Ethiopia. He stated that the company will carry out skills development activities both in the country and abroad, noting that the company has planned to establish a training center in Ethiopia. Orient International Holding Chairman Tong Jisang said that the textile industry sector requires qualified and skilled workers and technology. The chairman added essential support will be extended to realizing this requirement in Ethiopia, mentioning that the Shangtex textile manufacturer under the company has extensive experience in the field. Jisang expressed commitment to extend essential support in producing qualified manpower in Ethiopia. The chairman said they strive to introduce high-level skills and technology in textile industry in Ethiopia, further stating that some 100 Ethiopians will travel to China to receive training in the field. African Union Political Affairs, Peace and Security Commissioner Bankole Adoye said the African Union is pleased with the milestone achievements attained with the full implementation of Pretoria Peace Agreement. Lasting peace in Ethiopia. Burhanu Wargana will give us the detail.
African solutions to African problems is mostly demonstrated symbolically, in reality.
In an exclusive interview with Ethiopian news agency, Ambassador Bankole said the African Union welcomes the steps made by both the federal government and the TPLF.
The African Union is very pleased with the steps and milestones being achieved by the parties towards the full implementation of the Pretoria Agreement on lasting peace through cessation of hostilities on the northern Ethiopian question. We welcome the steps being made, and the African Union Commission has been mobilizing partners to support the implementation of the DDR process, particularly in relation to disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration.
The Commissioner added that some 12 African observers are presently in Mekelle to monitor the ceasefire and verify the compliance of the peace process and are doing a good job.
Most importantly, we also welcome the recent appointments of the interim administrator for the Tigray region. We look forward to peace in Ethiopia, and as the African Union, we salute the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, as well as the Chairperson of the Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, and the high-level panel for the job they're doing in monitoring the peace in Ethiopia. It is important that the Africa we want also is Ethiopia at peace.
He emphasized that the Pretoria Peace Agreement and the ongoing implementation depicted that Africa can solve its problems by itself.
African solutions to African problems is mostly demonstrated symbolically, in reality, by the success so far of the peace agreement signed in Pretoria, South Africa. We are assured and encouraged and indeed inspired by this strides being made through the Ethiopian peace process, and we want to replicate it We want to put forward lessons learned.
The African Union is working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia to put pressure the lessons learned that will be shared with other conflict zones, he said, adding so that they can all learn from Ethiopia in terms of implementation of the ceasefire, in terms of de-armament, demobilization and reintegration, in terms of the political dialogue and most importantly reconciliation and dialogue. Speaking of consultations that Ethiopia is undertaking with pertinent stakeholders on developing transitional justice policy, Political Affairs, Peace and Security Commissioner noted they welcome that consultations on transitional justice. They indeed are working together with the Ministry of Justice on the policy for transitional justice. Bakole stated that African Union is pleased that transitional justice and accountability issues remain high on the agenda. It is to be recalled that basic services including telecom, flight, electricity and other services have been resumed following the peace deal. And recently, the Ministry of Education is making all-round preparations to resume general education, including in 4 universities in Tigray region, and similarly, Ministry of Logistics and Transport is making efforts to restore road transport service to the region.
This is Amhara Media Corporation and you are watching our daily update. Proceeding to news beyond borders. The United Kingdom government has announced its decision to halt the recruitment of health workers from Nigeria, placing the country on the red list of nations not to be targeted for recruitment. The move comes after the World Health Organization identified Nigeria as one of the 55 countries with significant health workforce challenges in a report released a month ago. Consequently, the UK government has advised health and social care employers not to actively seek workers from these countries except where there is a government-to-government agreement. This directive is highlighted in a statement on the UK government's website titled Code of Practice for the International Recruitment of Health and Social Care Personnel in England. It would be recalled that in 2021, the UK suspended the recruitment of healthcare workers from Nigeria and 46 other countries. German humanitarian organization Sea-Watch reconnaissance aircraft Seabird 2 on a Sunday filmed a boat in distress in the central Mediterranean with hundreds of people on board. Moda Muluye will give us the detail.
The boat is leaking. Water is entering the boat. The boat is out of fuel.
German humanitarian organization Sea-Watch reconnaissance aircraft Seabird 2 on Saturday filmed a boat in distress in the central Mediterranean with hundreds of people on board. A tweet posted by Sea-Watch says, on Easter Sunday, the reconnaissance aircraft found 19 boats in distress in the Mediterranean. On Sunday night, alarm phone had received a call from a boat with about 400 people in distress who departed from Tobruk, Libya.
Water is entering the boat. The boat is out of fuel. They have no drinking water anymore. There's one pregnant woman on board and 10 babies.
The German non-governmental organization aircraft also filmed 2 merchant ships sailing in the vicinity of the fishing boat. According to Sea-Watch, the 2 merchant ships were ordered by Malta not to conduct a rescue operation, but only supply the boat with fuel. After the alert, the Seabird 2 found the fishing boat sailing in precarious conditions and overcrowded with migrants. In another incident, at least 2 migrants died after their boat sank in the Mediterranean between Tunisia and Italy, German aid group Rescue Ship said on Monday. Rescue Ship said its rescuers arrived in the area of the wreck on Saturday and found about 25 people in the water who had been there for 2 hours already. In the last few days, thousands of migrants have reached in the tiny island of Lampedusa, which lies only about 150 kilometers from the Tunisian coast. The numbers have dwindled of those reaching Italian shores after voyages on unseaworthy boats launched by traffickers, usually based in Libya or Tunisia. That is compared to just a few years ago. Hundreds of thousands were rescued at sea. According to Interior Ministry figures, over 14,000 migrants have arrived in Italy since the start of the year, almost 3 times that in the same period in 2022.
China on Monday urged the United States to earnestly shoulder its responsibilities and make greater efforts to address debt issues in African countries. Let's get more from the report. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin made the call at a press conference in Beijing when responding to accusations from some U.S. and World Bank officials that China is an obstacle in African debt relief. Wang said China attaches great importance to debt issues in Africa and actively helps African countries cope with the issues and has made the largest contribution to the G20 debt service suspension initiative. China has always been committed to providing support for the economic and social development of developing countries, including African countries, and has always carried out investment and financing cooperation with developing countries on the basis of equality and mutual benefit. Wang said their country has always done its best to help developing countries ease their debt burden. Wang added, China is not the source of the debt trap of African countries, but a partner in helping them and other developing countries get out of the poverty trap. The spokesman said some Western politicians are weaving traps to disrupt and undermine China's cooperation with developing countries. Their tricks have been seen through by developing countries and the international community, and there is no market for them. Wang said data from the World Bank showed that multilateral financial institutions and commercial creditors hold nearly 3/4 of Africa's total external debt, creating the biggest debt burden of African countries, which constitutes the biggest source of debt pressure on developing countries. The debts of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund account for nearly 70% of the total debt held by multilateral financial institutions. The United States is the largest shareholder of the World Bank and IMF, and the financial capital from the US and Europe is the largest commercial creditor of African countries. There is an unshrinkable responsibility for the US to participate in solving Africa's debt problems. Wang said they urge the U.S. side to earnestly shoulder its responsibilities and make greater efforts to promote the substantive participation of multilateral financial institutions and commercial creditors in addressing Africa's debt issue. This is Amhara Media Corporation, and you are watching our Tuesday update live from Bahar Dar, Ethiopia. And now let's see the foreign currency exchange rate of the day. This is all we got for today. I am Fukrati Zodon. You were watching our daily news. Goodbye and have a nice time.